It is Wednesday, January 22nd, and we're going to talk about the 5 biggest mistakes tappers make when they sit down to tap. Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to Wednesdays with Gene. I am the eponymous Gene Monterastelli. These live streams every single week are sponsored by the Tapping Mastery Academy. This month, we're sharing the Tapping Mastery Blueprint, which is a really simple approach for, I think, that everybody should know when they sit down to tap. Before we jump in, start talking about all of those things, what we want to do is we just want to ground ourselves. We want to put ourselves in our body. Busy day. As you jump in a stream like this, what we're going to do is we're just going to take a minute and a half and just do a little wordless tapping. As we do this, just move from tapping point to tapping point. And just notice what's going on in your system. And just let your fingers do the walking. And just be aware and present as you move from tapping point to tapping point. And as you are tapping in a wordless way, if anything comes bubbling up, jot that down. And just be easy and be gentle. Nice big stretch. Just notice what's going on in your system. Be present to whatever is there. It's good and useful for us to be present in that particular way as we're navigating our way through all of this. Makes a huge difference just to do a little tapping in a wordless way. I do this all of the time. Great. Awesome. So what we're going to do today is we're going to be talking about the 5 mistakes I think that beginning tappers make. Before we do that, just a quick reminder, in just a couple of weeks, we're doing the mystery training. The mystery training is a training that is so mysterious, I don't even know what is in it yet. Basically, what I'm going to do is next week, I'm going to be in Rwanda at the Trauma Symposium sponsored by the Peaceful Heart Network, and I'm going to be gathering all of the insights from the other participants, not for the work that we're doing, but ways that we can share with other folks in that particular way. If you'd like to join us for that, if you go to tappingqna.com/mystery, that's tappingqna.com/mystery. For those of you watching us on Instagram, this is the first time we're trying that, so we got to work on our graphics, so it's easy for you to see all of that stuff as well. tappingqna.com/mystery. I'd love for you to join us. Awesomeness. So let's talk about the biggest mistakes that I think tappers make. Because when we sit down to tap, tapping is it's a really powerful tool. But the problem with the really powerful tool is it comes across as deceptively simple. But just because something is deceptively simple doesn't mean that it is necessarily easy. And so the simplicity of it can actually get in the way of us doing it. Because if you're ever in a circumstance where you're watching a really well-formed tap-along video, or if you're in a circumstance where you're engaging with someone else and you're working with a practitioner in a class, when someone is leading you along, what they are saying makes so much sense that it just feels natural. And the moment you go home to sit down and try it on your own, you're in a circumstance where you're all sorts of confused. When that happens, it makes it really easy for us not to take action. So these are 5 of the things that I think come up and some really easy solutions to it. So number 1, the biggest mistake people make is they are trying to find the perfect words, as if the words are magic. The single most common question I get into the Tapping Q&A inbox is, what are the phrases that I should use to tap on a particular issue? And what's really important to remember is that when we are sitting down to tap, the little formula that I have in my head is tune in plus tap on points equals relief. And so that's what we're going for, is we're going for creating some transformation and relief in that particular way. And so the words are not magic. They're not an incantation that makes transformation happen instantaneously. Instead, the words are a tool to help us to tune in. You know, if I'm working with a client and they're crying, I'm not going 0 to 10, how sad are you? Describe what the sadness feels like inside of your body. Because they are so connected and they're so specifically engaged in what is going on with that particular thing, it makes sense that we don't have to say anything. And so when you sit down to tap, the simplest way to to tap on what is going on is just 2 simple parts. State what you're experiencing and how you are feeling about that. Right now, my internet is out and I'm really frustrated because I can't get my work done. Now, those phrases are doing exactly what we need them to do. We're tuning into the issue, so we're connected to it, and we're describing what we are feeling. And the really beautiful thing that is going to happen is the more you tune in and the more you tap in this way, more words are going to show up. More focus is going to show up. More connection is going to show up as you're engaging with it in that particular way. So the first thing that I would encourage you to do is to let go of the words and trying to figure out what is perfect. You know, all the time I'm in circumstances where clients are like, oh, I don't know where to start. I'm like, great, just start talking. Just describe whatever is there. And the beautiful thing is, as you tap and as you describe, what it's going to do is it's going to create this sense of clarity and it's going to make it easier for you. So mistake number 1 is trying to figure out what the perfect words are. Mistake number 2, moving too quickly. Oftentimes when we learn tapping, one of the things that a good instructor will teach you about is how do you find the root cause, the initial sensitizing the event, the reason why I am the way that I am. And what we want to do, part of us wants to cut to the chase and get to the root cause as quickly as possible. Because the thinking is, the sooner I get to the root cause, the faster I'm going to clear what I'm experiencing in this particular way. But the reality is that going slow is actually significantly more effective. For me, if you were to look at the biggest difference as a tapper and working with myself and as a practitioner who is working with other people, the biggest change that has come about is the speed in which I do the work. Because I would rather be in a circumstance where I'm doing little bitty bite-sized pieces as I work my way to the core of what is going on. And this is a benefit for a couple of reasons. The first benefit is that it becomes a smaller task for me to do. It's easier for me to move a couple of books, one load at a time, than it is to try and move the entire bookshelf from one side of the room to the other. And so by doing it in these little bitty bite-sized steps, what it allows me to do is it allows me to do manageable work. And so because the work is more manageable, it's easier for me to do. It's also safer for me to do. I'm significantly less likely to be completely overwhelmed by emotions that come up as I'm working. For me, it's not just about when I'm tapping on my own or if I'm working with clients, it's not just about the work that we get done, but it's also about how do I return to my day after I do the tapping? I need to be in a circumstance where it's not just about the work we have here, but I have the rest of my day in front of me. I have the rest of whatever is in front of me. As I work on my own, even tapping for myself, in most cases, I'm not in a circumstance where I'm doing nothing or I'm climbing immediately into bed. And so by doing smaller pieces, what it does is it ensures that when I'm done, I'm in a position where I am able to do what is there. The other thing I find is that when we go really quickly, we might think we get the root cause, but we might be missing lots of other really important things. And so by working in a really slow, stepwise fashion, what it does is it makes it so that the work that we are doing is more thorough. Most of the time when I'm sitting down to tap, it's not just about feeling better in this moment. What I'm looking for is a sense of long-term transformation and health as I navigate my way through this. And so for me, I would go slow and steady as I work my way through it, which moves us on to mistake number 3 when we sit down to tap. And I think the third biggest mistake people make when they're tapping is they have unrealistic expectations about what the transformation is going to be this particular time. I am heartened. I am satisfied. I am grateful at the fact as a tapping community that we spend way, 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 way less time talking about 1-session miracles and 1-minute miracles. Because I think what that does is that creates an unrealistic expectation. Happiness is outcome divided by expectation. And so as I sit down to work for today and I get 6 things done today, was that a good day or was that a bad day? Well, it depends. If I wanted to get 4 things done today, it was a great day and I'm doing backflips out of the office. If I wanted to get 9 things done today, then it feels like a giant waste of time because I didn't get as far as I wanted to. And so when we sit down and we have unrealistic expectations about what we would like to achieve, even if we achieve something, we're going to be disappointed because we didn't get as far as we want. It's really easy to be frustrated with tapping because it has required 6 sessions for me to clear this particular thing. Where if I was using another modality, if I was using another process, it might take me 6 months or 18 months to get the exact same change and transformation. And so by having unrealistic expectations, what we do is we end up demotivating ourselves and we end up not appreciating the change and transformation that happens. This is one of the reasons why in my Tapping Mastery Blueprint, I spend so much time talking about the goal of my tapping is better. The goal of my tapping is easier, is gentler, because there is benefit in incremental change. And so every single time I sit down to tap, if I spend 6 or 8 minutes doing some tapping and I feel better, that was a really good investment of 6 or 8 minutes because that's going to impact my day and what comes next. Am I going to be changed and transformed forever? Absolutely not. The podcast that I actually put up this morning was about tapping for overwhelm. And overwhelm is one of those issues that more than likely I'm going to be tapping on for the rest of my life. And that doesn't mean the tapping that I didn't work. But if my goal is to be free of my overwhelm so I can do my next task, then the tapping is doing its job as I engage with it. And so when we sit down, it's really important to have clear understanding of what we're trying to achieve. That's the reason why in my Tapping Mastery Blueprint, I teach the first question we ask before we tap is, what is the goal of this round of tapping? What is the goal of this session of tapping? Now, it's great to state the long-term goal of, I would like to love myself. I would like to be comfortable inside of my own skin in every single scenario. But it's another thing to go, okay, great. If I'm successful with this tapping, what is the benefit? What is the impact for today? And so being in a circumstance where I'm recognizing this is what the impact is for today, I start to have more realistic expectations. I am open to the possibility that instantaneous, eternal, total transformation is available to me every single time I sit down to tap. But just because it's available to me doesn't mean that is the thing that I'm going to achieve, doesn't mean that is what my lived experience is going to be. And so it's really important for us to have clear expectations. And I'm not saying that you should lower your standards when you sit down to tap. I'm not saying to expect less. But instead, when we have clear expectations when we're tapping, we're much more likely to be satisfied with the tapping we just did, which means we're much more likely to come back and to tap on this again, and to tap on this again, and to tap on this again. So, number 3, big mistake is not having realistic expectations when we sit down to tap. Mistake number 4 is, it kind of dovetails on what are the exact right words. And that's the idea that we struggle with, or we think we need to be more specific than we actually are when we're tapping. Almost every introductory tapping class, when they're teaching you the basics, I do the exact same thing, is we say that for tapping to be successful, we need to be as specific as possible. The mistake that most people make is they mistake be as specific as possible with I must be specific. And we're looking for, again, an initial sensitizing event, a perfect phrase, an understanding of all of the aspects. Sometimes I'm in a circumstance where I'm tapping on anger, and the only thing I know is that I am angry, and I'm so angry I can't speak. And so being as specific as possible might look like, as I'm tapping, because that is the only specificity I have. But as I am tapping in that particular way, I am diminishing and I'm transforming the anger. And it goes from to I am so angry, I am so angry, I am so angry because. And so as the emotions diminish, as the emotions become more proportionate, the details start to show up. And so in the beginning, it's not, I need to be specific. It's, I need to be as specific as I can. And being as specific as I can sometimes is not specific at all. And so if we think in order for me to be successful, I have to be specific and I don't have any specificity in there, I don't sit down to tap. So when you sit down to tap, give yourself permission to be as specific as possible, not just specific. Mistake number 5 that I think most folks make when they're tapping is they're forgetting to tap on the small things. Tapping is this powerful tool that can help us to transform so many different things, clear limiting beliefs, change the way we see ourselves, heal our physical body. And for me, tapping is something that also can be used in little tiny ways all day long. One of my favorite tools, again, something I teach in the Tapping Mastery Blueprint, is something that I call 15-1. And 15-1 tapping is when I'm working on a project, and I did this last night when I was working on a workbook for a training that I'm doing next month, is I work for 15 minutes, and then after 15 minutes, I do 1 minute of wordless tapping. And then I work for 15 minutes and I do 1 minute of wordless tapping. And I am not waiting for myself to be overwhelmed or frustrated or stuck or tired when I am doing the work. Instead, I am just simply engaging with it and I am just tapping. Because I know that tapping for 1 minute as I'm working along, my energy is going to decrease. And instead of waiting until it gets really, really bad, if I'm doing it every 15 minutes, I get refilled. And then it decreases a little bit and I get refilled. And it decreases a little bit and I get refilled. I might, for overwhelm, tap on overwhelm 19 times over the course of the day. One of my favorite versions of tapping is the fancy version of it is content-free intervention, which is basically a fancy way of saying tapping without words. And so for me, I find it super, super useful and super, super vital as I am tapping to be in a circumstance where I am making sure that I am tapping in little small ways all day long. Tapping can be this super, super powerful tool to unearth big things, but it also can be just a little seasoning that we can sprinkle on the top of what we are engaging with. So those are 5 mistakes that I see beginning tappers or all tappers make. We're looking for the perfect words. We're moving too quickly. We have unrealistic expectations. We get hung up in being specific, and we spend too much time only working on the big things, and we forget how powerful and how useful it is for us to be tapping on the small things as well. So the biggest takeaway from all of this, to take all 5 of these things and to distill it down, it's really, really simple. Tap more on whatever is in front of you, and don't be worried about what is coming up in that moment. If you start in that way, if you're gentle and you engage with it in that way, you're going to get so much more out of tapping. And the beautiful thing is, if you just do that, if you just tap a little more without being super, super hung up on about what is going on, it is okay for you because you're going to see a little benefit inside of that. And as you see a little benefit inside of that, it is going to reinforce and it's going to make you want to tap more. It's going to make you to tap more. It's going to want to make you to tap more. So I would love to hear, as we work our way through all of that, of those 5 things, which is the one that resonates the deepest with you? Drop it into the chat box. I'd love to know, as you hear this, what is the piece that is most useful for you as you are navigating your way through this? Because when we name something that we have learned, typing it into a chat box, sharing it with the community, 2 things are going to happen. Number 1, you're going to be reinforcing it for yourself. And number 2, you might be framing your insight in a way that someone else is going to read in the chat box. And they go, oh, right, I didn't think about it that way. It's one of the reasons why I love going to training with others is I love hearing their insights and their questions as much as how I am engaging in that particular thing as we're working our way through it. Awesomeness. Not needing to find the root cause makes it easier for me to create transformation. Tapping on the small stuff more. The 15-1 tapping. It's super, super simple to do 15-1. I literally just put little circles on my to-do. Like if I want to work for an hour, I'll put 4 little circles. I'll set the timer for 15 minutes. I'll work for 15. When the timer goes off, I set it for 1. I cross off the X and I work my way through this. Just start tapping. Don't focus on the specificity, forgetting to tap on the small things. Awesomeness. So those are the 5 things. A couple of footnotes for you as we engage and move forward. For those of you on Instagram, I apologize that this isn't going to be super readable. This is the first time we're going to Instagram as well. We'll work on this in the future. So a couple of footnotes for you. Number 1, the mystery training is coming up. That is the exact date of it is February 8th. If you go to tappingqna.com/mystery, that's tappingqna.com/mystery, you're going to get a chance to see this really amazing, fun training that we're doing. Number 2, if you are in the Tapping Mastery Academy, we got office hours on Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern. I can't wait to see you. This weekend, we are doing the last live version of the Tapping Mastery Blueprint. In this 2-day training, I teach the 5 approaches that I think every tapper needs to know. If you know these 5 approaches, you're going to have insight and you're going to have a way to be able to engage explicitly with whatever comes up. And if you can't join us live, the moment you sign up, you're going to get access to a recording of the entire training, all 11 lessons. Normally, it's a $400 training. You can get access to it for $50. Next week's live at 11 a.m. Eastern, we're going to be doing an Ask Me Anything. Because I'm going to be on the other side of the world, that's going to look a little bit different. So if you have a question for me that you would like me to answer on next week's episode, go to tappingqa.com/AMA. AMA stands for Ask Me Anything. tappingqa.com/AMA. Enter your question in so I can pull all the questions together. And so what we're going to do next week is I'm going to spend about 45 minutes answering some of the most common questions that come up so you can get even more out of tapping. And if you don't have a question, I would really, really, really encourage you to come and join us for that, because I learn just as much from other people's questions as I do from my own. tappingqa.com/AMA to submit your question, and just keep an eye on your inbox. We will be back here again at 11 a.m. Eastern time next week. Awesome. So I hope you enjoyed those 5 little mistakes that I see people making a lot. Give them a try, play with them. If you got questions about anything, support at tappingqa.com. If you happen to be watching the replay after the fact, on the screen, what you're going to do is you're going to see a playlist of all of the past episodes. This is episode 6. We're showing up every single Wednesday in 2025 to share a bunch of good tappingness with you. We're also going to do a bunch of tapping. Hope you guys have a great day. I'll talk to you real soon. Bye-bye.